Hello everybody, it is Ebontis, and in this video I want to talk to you guys about the Charge Blade. Now my goal in this video is to show you just about every combo that I know of, give you a demonstration at the end in a real fight against a monster, and kind of break everything down, because I think the Charge Blade has some of the most potential, but it does take some time to learn. When you're in a fight, it takes a little bit to warm up, but once it's fully cooking, you can do so much damage with it. So it's worth learning if you want to put the time in, but like, you know, a fighting game character, could take a little bit to understand the combos, but it's not like you have to do like, you know, up, down, left, right, A, B, X, Y, start or anything. You don't have to do crazy combos. It's mostly just understanding the systems involved with the weapon. And on the bottom, on the left-hand side of the screen, top corner, you'll see the sharpness gauge. Mine's white just because I have a high tier weapon. But you're going to see a little icon for a sword, an icon for a shield, an icon for an axe, and then you've got those 5 little bottles. Now, the bottles are your files. Those are what you charge up, and then you can use those in different ways. And then the icons show basically the state of your weapon. So right now my sword and shield and axe, if I switch over, they're all basically in a very normal state. They're not doing anything too crazy. My sword and shield can get an elemental boost. So I can get my sword to have the elemental hit that I've got going on. Shield can have the same effect, because if you do an attack, I can do a shield thrust with my sword, with basically any combination. And then my axe, I can turn it into Savage Axe mode, and what that will do is I will be able to be much more efficient with my usage on my files, which I'll explain as I go. But also you'll notice the sword and the shield combine together to make the axe. But mainly the axe head is made up of the shield. So when you get the shield in the elemental buffed state, it also will take your axe attacks to a level that they normally can't get to. So that's the run through. You need to build up your files with your sword, and then your axe attacks can be more powerful. That's the quick summation. But to do all that, I've got to show you a little bit. So first, you're going to have your sword shield combinations. You're going to be able to do your sword attacks with some basic moves. You got your triple combo for Y, so weak, return, and round slash. Then, with your pretty much any shield attacks that you do, you can, or sword attacks, you can throw the YB combo together. And if I say those, it's triangle, circle, triangle for Y, circle for B. Put that together, you can do your shield attack. Now you'll notice while I'm doing attacks, my sword starts to glow. As you do certain attacks with your sword, you start building up this charge on the sword. And you see up in the upper left-hand corner, the little files, the bottles, they're glowing yellow. Right now, they're glowing at the mid state. They're not at peak charge, they're at mid charge. So if I take this level of charge, and then I hold guard, and I hit B or circle for charge, I'm going to charge those files and actually capture that now. So now I have 3 files of that elemental charge. And the way you would use those is you can typically go into axe mode, and however you want to get into axe mode, and you'll notice in the top right hand corner it says elemental discharge. So if I just hit B, that's going to use one of those files. And if I do B and then B again, that uses those up. And then if I swing again, you'll notice it'll basically be empty. Normal axe swings, no elemental addition to it. So that's the gist of what you're doing. But you want to make all of that efficient and the most powerful that you can while you're working on a monster. So the build-up is a little bit of a process, but then maintenance once you get there, actually quite easy. So that's why, like, the early part of the fight, gonna take you a little bit to build things up, but once you've got everything cooked and going, maintenance is easy to keep the high damage up. So to build up your charges, the more efficient way to do it is with the hold circle or hold B. It's your charged rising slash. But the thing about it is, if you just press and hold it forever, you actually do a less efficient rising slash than if you charge it and you get perfect timing. When he pulls it back there, you get a double slash. And you'll notice one hit with that double slash is the mid-level of charge. And then if I do it again, I'm fully charged at red. Now, the thing to know is this is full charge. There's a level beyond this, and basically it's what I would call overheated. So you've got mid, full, and overheated. If you go too far, your attacks start to bounce off. Literally, your swings bounce off. Now, at that point, I hit Y again, and it just automatically filled the charge. But you'll notice when it was at least at the full status. Now, if you overcharge, but then you, like, so if I do that actual charging motion, but I've got all files filled, even if they're overheated, they're still going to give me all 5. But if you're overheated, your sword is going to do nothing. So if you hit that state, charge quickly, so you know, make sure your sword attacks continue to work well. So you saw it was literally like press and hold. If I do that twice, my files are full. Now, there's combinations where you can make that kind of flow. And you can do a shield attack in between. Get a nice throw, and then you're done. That's a quick way to get there. Now, you also notice the files on the left-hand side are now showing little explosive files. So they are fully charged. Like, this is max charge on all 5. So you have the white level, and now you've got the yellow explosive. This is the good level. Now, just for an example, if I sit here and just swing with the sword, it took 2 full combos just to get to yellow, and then a third one to get to red. So you can be much more efficient about getting your charge up, but as long as you're getting some swings off, eventually you'll get to that red state, and you can charge it up. And again, you can always even re-up your charges, put it somewhere, but if you get to that overheated state, you need to charge. Now, your goal at this point is to use the charges, but you want to use them the most efficient that you can. The way you're going to be efficient with your charges is by getting your sword, or sorry, getting your axe into Savage Axe mode. So Savage Axe mode is when you get your axe kind of amped up, and you do it in a couple of different ways. One is going to be by breaking a wound, and I'm sure you guys know what wounds are by now. So if you have a normal piece of like animal hide or something, you're working on, you know, breaking it down, then you get it to this status, which is like the skin's exposed, but you haven't quite broken through. And then, if you do a couple more attacks, then you're going to actually see that gash in the skin. And if you have focus mode like held, it's going to glow. Like, these are pretty obvious to spot once you get them going. I've got one over here as well. So both of these gashes are open. Now, when you do your focus attack, like every weapon has a focus attack, but with this one, when you do a focus attack on a wound, you're going to take your axe into that amped state. So what you'll notice now is if I go into axe state, I showed you guys before, I'm going to use 1 elemental discharge with 1 attack. There you go. It's gone. Not that efficient because I get 5 attacks and it's gone. But if I come over here and I hit the wound, and there's a couple other ways to do this, but if I get my axe into Savage Axe state, 3 different ways. One of them is the focus attack, which is one of my favorites because it's slicing pizza cutter. Now my axe is in the Savage Axe state. So now when I'm in axe state, if I hit B again, notice how the files don't change. And then if I hit it twice, I still haven't even used the file. You can actually do the element discharge and element discharge 2 indefinitely with your files as long as your axe is in that savage state. So 1, that's extremely efficient. The way to actually start using files is to get to the amped elemental discharge, which is either going to be Y and B directly to it, or you can lead into it with a combo. So if you go element discharge 1, element discharge 2, then you can do amped just straight with another B, and then you can do a follow-up. So the amped element discharge and the amped element discharge follow-up that you can see both of those on screen, each of those will use half of a file when you're in the Savage Axe state. Now, there's a higher tier version, but we've got to prep up to get there. But the other thing that I haven't mentioned is when you're in Savage Axe state, every attack that you do, if you press and hold the button, even like your Y attacks that don't use an element, they cause the little pizza grinder to spin like a chainsaw. So if I press it normally, I get a basic attack, but if I press and hold it, I get like 4 more hits in there. So if I do a double combo up and down, that's 195 total damage on the combo. Now if I do the same combo just holding it on each attack, 428 instead of 195. Massive, massive difference. Same thing applies to elements. If I press and hold B when I swing, I get the spin every single time through, and your damage is massively increased. Now, you're also going to notice that my Savage Axe is about to run out, so we're going to run a little low here. And what I need to do is, 1, we'll get a quick recharge. And again, if you're ever at the yellow state, 1 double charge will get you to the max. So, what I need to do is actually turn on your trainer. And this is actually a good thing to practice if you're working on practicing your counters and smashes, come over here to the trainer, and you can turn on the smash attack mode, and that'll let you kind of be able to block this thing. So you can get to the Savage Axe state by doing a power clash, which means you've blocked enough, you've kind of got enough of that hidden number of guard points, and if you've blocked enough attacks from an enemy, big monster, you'll eventually get into power clash with the monsters that you can, because this weapon is one of those that can power clash. The other thing you can do is get a perfect guard, and then just do an overhead swing with your axe, and if you get that, you'll go straight into Savage Axe mode. So let me try and do this without getting smacked in the head. So if you get a perfect guard to a Y or triangle attack, gotta be actually a little more up on it. Perfect guard, Savage Axe slash, and then now my axe is back to that mode where everything I do is spin to win. So those are the three ways to get to Savage Axe mode. Either break a wound, just like that with your focus attack like we've done, get a perfect guard into the Savage Axe attack, which is triangle or Y, and then you've also got the power clash mode that'll get you there. So that's how you get into Savage Axe mode, and that allows you to use the files much more quickly. But as I said, we've also got the shield and the sword, which you can amp up with your elemental buff to them. Pretty much if you've got elemental charges that you've got sitting in your files, just as I do right now, you can take those and you can put those into the shield. The more charges you have, and the better tier of charges, so if I just have the little white bottles, my shield would be charged for, I want to say it's around like 2 minutes. But then if I actually have the upgraded version, you're going to get almost like 50% longer charge. I know there's an exact number to it. I forget it off the top of my head, but it's a noticeable difference. So when I do the charge right now, I do this, and then I would hit B just to dunk my charge in there that I've stocked up. But if you just hold B, now my shield has an elemental boost. So previously when I would do a shield attack, it would just hit. But now I'm actually going to have the element that goes with it. Now, the other thing is, you've also got your sword. When you get to this level of overcharge like this, my attacks bounce off. But if I can actually get my sword to have an elemental boost to it, like this, now, if I get my sword to that overcharged state, I can still actually get through. See, now we're in the normal state, we got the red files, we're good, but maybe I hit one too many times. Guess what? That's okay, because now that my sword has my elemental boost to it, I can still hit, and I'm not gonna completely bounce off. It's not the most effective, you don't really want to live here, but you can do that. The other thing about having the sword in the elemental boost mode is you're able to actually cut through things, like maybe armor or plating, that you might otherwise just completely bounce off of. So it's a more effective thing, but it's not really required for the most. So what I want to do now is my shield is charged, my files are full, but I want to get my axe into Savage Axe mode to get the most out of this I can. So we're going to go for another perfect block, go for a Savage Axe swing over the top. Now everything is fully charged, but mostly it's the shield and the axe I'm concerned about here, and this is going to be your ultimate combo. This is when if you have a monster knocked down on the ground, you're at the head, and you can get a full long like attack that travels through their body, because when you do the amped and then the super amped version, I'm going to use all 5 of my files, but you're going to get a big explosion across the ground. So you can either just go straight into YB, and then YB super amped is this to a slam, and then it has all the explosions around it. But now you notice every one of my files is gone. So you got to find the right time to use that, because you still have to now get your files charged back up. And, you know, if you get like an attack, you get a partial, whatever you can get done. There we go. So we're fully stocked again. Now my shield and my axe are charged, so if I bring out my axe, and then maybe I want to go for some big attacks, we'll go Elemental 1, hold it. Elemental 2, hold it. Then I want to go for a Rising Slash, and then maybe an Overhead Slash. And then you can go into Elements. Did I actually crash? Nope, didn't crash. Sorry. It's one of my rare hangups visually. So you can have all of that, and notice I still have not used one bit of my file, but if I want to go for like a full combo, you can go B, hold it, B, hold it again. Now I'm going to go for the element, and then now that my shield is supercharged, I can go for the super element charge all the way through, big explosions, and unload everything. So if you were at a moment where the monster's on the ground, you've started a combo, and you feel like you can unload the whole thing, the super amped element is a way to completely discharge, but honestly, in my opinion, it's actually almost inefficient to do that, because you can still do an absolute ton of damage just by using basically the other ones. Even if you want to lead into see, now that I'm back here, now I will charge my shield. And then, if I want my axe, I can either break a wound if I've got one open. So we'll do it this way. This will get us our wound break. And again, as you're fighting a monster, you're going to have wounds. So if you're breaking wounds on a consistent basis, you're going to have your axe in a savage state pretty consistently. But now I have no elemental files, so I need to get those up real quick. Notice the bounce if you go too far. And if you do that double sword charge, if you do the charge, I'll say it real quick. Charging slash to the shield thrust to another one, it's a good flowing combo. You can get that dunked in pretty quick. Similar thing if you do the double charge to your round slash to another double charge. They're both about as quick, both pretty effective if you want to hit with the shield for a bit more blunt damage, or if you want to go for severing, maybe you're going for hitting a tail for a monster that's on the ground, you can do it that way. So again, now we're back into the amp state. The sword, I typically don't worry as much about getting the sword up to its highest tier, but if you're fighting something like a Gravios or something like that, it might be beneficial for your sword to have a bit more of power, you know, amp through. And if you do this, then you're going to be able to kind of cut through skin, cut through some hide, and you'll be a bit more effective. So if you feel like you need to amp up the sword, you can. But what I find much more efficient is if I go into, you know, axe mode, morph in here, you can do also some movement to it as well. So you can do a dashing slam, sort of a bit of an overhead. And then say you run in, but you need to back out, hit down and B, and you'll get a back step slash. And you can cover some ground, get a back step to get out of the way. And you can also do a bit of a lateral slash, so as soon as you swing, if you need to move, hold left. You can do one that you move kind of across. Hopefully you don't run into something. But again, if you do an axe attack and then you want to move, cover some ground left, cover some ground right, and you can almost do this dance back and forth as long as you're not getting smacked in the head like I am. And then, again, if you like, see how my axe mode is fading right now? If I go back to my slash, get a perfect guard, smack it around again, or break another wound, I'm right back into that axe mode. But what I tend to do personally, and this may not be the most efficient thing, but you can even do like a rushing elemental discharge if you want to. And remember, when you're in Savage Axe mode, no matter what it is you're doing, hold that attack button to get more out of it. But if you do B, 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 and B without doing the super amp, you can go 4 attacks. 1, 2. Sorry, 1, 2, 3 for the amped, and then if you just do the discharge follow-up without the super, you can continue to just use like 1 or half of a file at a time and not do that full discharge and be able to get much more swings out of it. And that way you actually don't need to worry about the shield being charged, because you're not trying to do the super discharge, but you can still do a massive combo, bunch of damage, but then if you do want to get the shield back, you can. And if you want to, remember, if you want to go straight into the amped, you can go overhead. And then you can go into the super amped release. And just do everything. But the way it travels across the ground, if they're just kind of sitting in a little ball, you're not going to hit their whole body unless you're traveling through their body long ways. You can't really get quite as much. So I think that covers most of it. Let me run through and make sure I've kind of got everything. So you've got your morph that you can do. You've got your charging of your sword. Quick attacks, however you want to, you know, refill your files. See, one little hit won't do anything. You do your Y attacks. It's not a bad way to sit there and swing if you're just going for damage, but it takes a while for you to actually get your sword meter full. And again, you can actually go almost straight into your super amped attack, but you got to have everything set up first. So now I got to charge my shield. And then you'll notice when you do that charge, you've got the condensed slash. You can even do this to an elemental axe swing right into it. So if you want to go straight into that swing, you actually can. And it's going to be really efficient even if you're doing that, because remember, you're in Savage Axe mode, so you've got a little bit better use of your axe. So if you literally go here, then I do a quick charge, I can do this, and then I can go to an elemental discharge, and that's a way for you to switch and start unloading that element discharge. The biggest thing that you will probably forget, and then you can morph back in, morph back, get back into the element. You can get a nice little dance going once you get comfortable with the moves. So that covers most of what you're going to be doing with the weapon. Biggest things to actually show you are, I just want to kind of go through a couple of options here, because we covered a lot of the combos. So your sword to melee is literally just your morphing back and forth. Your guarding attacks is the one thing I'll show you. I showed you the getting into Savage Axe mode that you can do, but after successfully guarding with one of the sword mode attacks, if you press Y and B with the elemental boost, you can follow up with the super damage. So I'll kind of show you that here in a minute. Charge gauge, you can see you've got none, yellow, red, and then overheating, basically. Your elemental charge, that's how you put the element on your shield and also on your sword, and you can get those from the boost. You have to have the element on your shield before you can put the element on your sword. That is the order it has to go. Shield comes first, then your sword can be elemental charged, but again, that's kind of an optional thing. Power axe mode, as we stated, lets you get the axe to do the kind of chainsaw effect, but it also is much more efficient use of your files. Charge attacks, you can see the double slash and the sword condensed element are power charge attacks that require careful timing. Takes a little bit, but if you get them both, you're going to be actually much more efficient with your file usage. And you're either going to have impact files, which just do stun and exhaust, very efficient on basically any monster, or if you have an element like mine's ice, I'm pretty sure, you're going to have the elemental properties dealing high elemental damage, and if something is weak to ice or water and you're fighting a fire monster, for example, that can be the way to go. If you just are more of a general use that you want to use impact on, that's still going to work just fine. You can just kind of be a little more neutral on the elements. So the final thing we're talking about is guarding. So you'll notice there's certain things that I'll do, my shield will flash. So if I do this, that little white flash that happens, if you get that, that's actually going to be a guard. And those are just like guard moments. Now I can just straight up guard and hold the block like this. Just hold block, take a hit, it's going to take stamina, and that's just a basic guard like any other shield weapon in the game. But you also have the moments where if you 1, 2, 3, the point where the shield is actually in front of you, it's not long, but when the shield is in front of you, technically it works as a guard. So if I can time this right, hard to time, but it's just a nice thing to have. That little white flash will work as a guard. Almost. That's a guard. So you actually saw it hit the guard, takes a normal guard shot. But honestly, if you're sitting here and you want to intentionally guard, you see something coming, you can do the perfect guard, and then you can set that up, come back to a morph. Well, if you don't actually get smacked in the head, get a quick charge in, and then I've already got Savage Axe mode. Get a quick charge in, come back, shield is charged, axe is charged, get into axe mode if I want to. Elements, and you can start swinging that way. And I think what this weapon has potential of is it's got a mix of everything, but it's not like a jack of all trades, master of none. It's actually really able to be good at just about everything that it does. Now, it's not going to be able to do the single shot, massive, like, greatsword heavy attack damage or the big hammer slam. But if you're wondering what to do with regards to, like, how do you wake a monster up, for example, your best bet would actually be in something like this state. If you're chasing after a monster and you're fast enough to get there, what I would advise is getting into axe mode, and then your best bet would be to do an amped element discharge as your wake up attack. This is probably the biggest single that you've got. All that together, probably going to be one of your biggest. And remember, if you just want to unleash everything right after it, and you've got the files to do it, and the sword charges, that's just going to be the biggest thing you got. But that's not going to be your first hit, so it will never really be your wake up with the super amp. but you can still use it as a follow-up if that's what you want to do. So yeah, your most efficient sword charge-up is going to be that perfect B combo, and then whatever you want to put in between, get that charge. If you want to get that charge and your shield is charged, you can go straight to that sword charge. Now your sword has that element. You do follow up at that swing. And then if you want that Savage Axe mode, remember you've got to find a way to get it. So whether it's break a wound, if you break a wound, you're going to get your nice little double slash into your big chainsaw attack. If you've got the files charged and you want to get your shield charged up, you got to hold B or circle. And then at that point, you're fully charged. And then once you get your files fully charged and everything is pretty amped, then you're good to go. The thing is, when you get into Savage Axe mode, your shield and axe are part of it, but your sword has no real effect on this moment. That's why getting the sword into element mode doesn't do as much. But if you get to a point where a monster's going slow and you're just sitting here unloading these chainsaw attacks, then you go into the amped element discharge, and then you go for the follow-up. You can do all of that damage, and I used one file. If you go through all 5 files and you unload all of that damage on them, you're going to do a massive, massive chunk. And I think that covers just about everything for the Charge Blade for moves. The flow, the combos of what's going to really work together. It's like, is this charge into a shield better? Or is it maybe, you know, and then dunk the charge? And again, that's the thing. It's like if you use a couple files, and even if you get a half a charge, refilling your files is not that hard to do, because say you have 3 files left by using your axe, like this, for example, and you go element, I'm gonna get to the back, and then if you're out of position, go for a lateral swing, and then you can be in better position. Lateral swing again. Element. Element. Notice how I haven't even used the file yet because I haven't actually got to the amped one, but if you do the amped, and then you just do the normal discharge follow-up, I can go through a couple. And then you do super after the follow. If you really want to do that, you can. But again, you use all your files. So, to my opinion, unless you just find the perfect opportunity where the monster's laying on the ground, you're lined up on the head, the element discharge is going to travel across the ground, hit their whole body, that may be a time to use super, but for me right now, keeping your vials full and usable for a very long extended period of time, to me is much more beneficial to go through most of that combo without the super, and you keep your file usage much, much longer. But yeah, get your axe to Savage Axe mode. That makes your files last way longer. The shield elemental allows you to have the super as an option, but it's not required. So even if you just have your files full and your axe in super mode, you're still going to be doing a mass chunk of damage. And I think that pretty well does it. So I'm going to take us out to a hunt now. I just kind of want to look through the combos. So this is your shield elemental boost to like a shield thrust if you want to. You've got your 3-file discharge combo where you can do shield thrust, amped follow-up, and then you can do the super amped discharge. So triangle and circle, circle, triangle and circle again. And you can even lead up to the amped elemental discharge with 2 circle or 2 B attacks, which are going to be the element 1, element 2. Then you can actually go into the amped element discharge. But what you notice is you can get there from the sword too. So there's a little bit of a dance where if you do a shield charge, if you do a shield charge, you're going to notice if you like watch the little button prompts up above, you're actually able to take it to another level. So here, now I can go straight into the axe element discharge, and I can do the follow-up. But being as nothing is charged, I can't do the super. But that's how you get to it. If you do that here in shield attack and you want to go straight into an axe attack, you can do it. But being as nothing is charged, I have no chainsaw attacks. I have no super available. So that's kind of why I say that's the... Oh, that's one other thing too. When you do your morphs, you're typically going to have one of those guarding moments. So if I do a morph to the axe, the shield moment is right at the beginning. So if I do a sword morph slash, it goes a white flash at the start. So that white flash is when I could guard. And then when I come back, I'll have it at the end. So if I want to do a guard here, so that morph slash just takes the guard right here. So I wouldn't morph, but it will work as a normal guard. And then if I get the axe slash off, but then I want to go for That little bit of slash would be timing afterwards, and that's the harder one to get. So again, if I do the morph, there's my guard. And then when I come back out of it, if I do the morph slash, it's when the shield appears in front of me that it actually will pop. And that's the harder ones to time, is when you're almost waiting on it. I'm trying to actually get it to show you guys. It's just a little harder to time. Still didn't even do it quite right. Let's see if I can get it now. There's the guard. So I actually had the timing of the little white flash on the shield first. Yeah, anytime you see those white flashes, you have the opportunity to guard. If you can really learn that timing and know that, like, if I'm going to go for a slash, I'm not sure what the monster's going to do, I can either have that shield waiting, or if I want to morph into axe, but I'm not sure it's coming, wait a second, and then you can actually have that guard moment show up as well. So yeah, you can even have, like, partial files done, and even in that state, you're still going to be able to do a lot. Come over here to Savage Axe, and Savage Axe will still work just as usual with partial files. So here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of that uses one file, and I just find that ridiculously efficient compared to everything else. Now, there's one thing I want to show you, just almost something to avoid, but if you do elemental discharge, and then if you do amped, but then you hit right trigger, you're gonna do an elemental roundhouse, but you also notice my files are round slash, I'm sorry, but my files are toast. So if you're in the amped elemental discharge and you hit trigger, it will morph into an elemental round slash with your sword, but you use all of your files by doing that. It's not one of those things I commonly do. I honestly kind of don't know why it's in there per se. Somebody in the comments could probably tell me, but I haven't found a good use for it yet, but I just wanted you to be aware of what you could accidentally hit. When you see that elemental round slash, probably don't do that. It's just going to use all your files and not do that much for it. So, let's go fight a monster. I believe this kind of covers just about everything I can, and I'm just going to do a basic Chotacabra fight. So let's get it going. Alright, so I did kill these little bugs, so I've already got my files charged up, but here is our Chotacabra. We're going to get things going. So we're going to start out with our charge. He's going to wiggle his butt, so he's going to jump in the air. So again, you can go for your charge. Get another charge here. I'm overcharged, so I got to make sure I dunk that charge. So my charges are full. Get a nice block. Now I've already got Savage Axe mode set up. So I'm literally in Savage Axe cooking mode already. So if I get any of these attacks going, remember, make sure you hold your attacks. And they'll always hit that much harder. But again, they're bigger, slower attacks, so you got to kind of know where you're going to be aiming. And if you ever feel like you need more mobility, come back to that sword mode. It's also a good way to get your blocks in if you need it. If you want to get your shield charged up, I can do that. So now my shield attacks that I throw in there are going to have that element paired on top. So if you're on an impact file like exhaust and impact, you're actually going to do quite a bit of good. So you're going to charge at me. There's my perfect guard. Dodge out of the way. Now everything I do, I'm going to be able to use that hold. I don't have any element right now because I use that on the shield. But again, breaking weapons is going to be a pretty effective thing to do. There's your focus attack. That also gets me in my Savage Axe mode. I'm hypercharged or overheated right now, so I got to use these files up. I want to get my files to full element, so I'm just being most effective as possible. That was a little short. Watch the big tongue attack. Normal guard, just in case you want to be safe. I'm overheated. And we're fully going for efficiency. Block. And now he's laying on the ground. I can go for I can usually get like a couple of these if I try and move it throughout. A lot of wounds destroyed, and now I can be really efficient. So now I can go for overhead. I can go for my amp 1. I can go for amp 2. Focus mode is really important for all of this too. Overhead amp. And then go for the follow-up, and all of that is one file. Massive amount of damage in just one file. And again, I am way overtuned for him, obviously, but this is why I'm absolutely just beating him up. And occasionally get caught mid-animation, but you can still do so much. And then if I want to go for an amp, focus mode really helps you not miss. And that's my super. And again, that's kind of a waste in my opinion, because it's easy to miss too. I don't think I have any wounds to hit right now. I've kind of got them all exposed. So yeah, he's almost dead. So when you really start cooking with your elemental charges and stuff like that, you are just very efficient. And we do have some files charged up. We're in a pretty good status. So if I can let him actually go in there and go to sleep, we'll try and do a wake up attack, see if it kills him, or at least just do a big starter attack. He usually crawls around this corner and lays down and goes to sleep for his little nap time. As long as the bugs aren't following me, we should be good. So if he lays down in sleepy mode, so what you want to do is get your axe out. Make sure you're set up for that. And then the best thing that I've figured to do is your big amped elemental discharge. So I like to focus to line it up. Hold the button. Get all the chains. And then if you want to go for a super here, then that might be especially if it's a bigger monster, you might actually have a pretty good chance for a big attack to hit there. He's exhausted. He's gonna die soon. Oh, here's a power clash too. This will get me power axe mode. Because then you follow up with that savage axe attack after that as well. So you have a chance for that savage axe attack after a perfect guard or a power clash. And then, of course, any wound you break is going to be doing that as well. Now everything I hit hits like a chainsaw. And he's just getting absolutely cooked. And we're done. Pretty short fight. Obviously not the most efficient fight in the world. I know there's people better at this than me. But my goal is to hopefully break it down in a realistic fashion for a lot of people who are learning the weapon. And hopefully you learn something from this one, because it's a ton of fun to use this weapon. Very few have a pizza cutter chainsaw action to it, much less a shield that can guard paired with that much damage potential. That's why I think it's unique in my opinion. You have the damage potential of so much with your, you know, axe and shield, big elemental discharges that you can do, but you've also got a sword and shield with decent mobility, blocking potential, power clashing, and everything else. And I've just had a ton of fun with the weapon. So if you enjoyed the video, if you learned something from this one, and maybe if I forgot one major minor thing from this, throw that in the comments below, because I'm not claiming to be perfect. I think I got most of it, but maybe I missed something, so let me know. But if you enjoyed the series and any videos from me, hit that subscribe button, hit the like, find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Blue Sky, wherever. And best thing you can do if you watch this one, drop a like, leave a comment, help support the channel with that subscribe button. Have a good time, everybody. I'll see you soon.